Yes. Yeah. So let's continue from where we left it. So now let's go into the space of your practice now and also the role that you play at COMENSA. Obviously, COMENSA is a volunteer work. You don't get paid for doing it. You are doing your duties as a member in the profession. But basically you have established your own enterprise. So is there something that we could call the business of coaching before we do coaching? And what is involved and what are the challenges that you find yourself having to deal with? Because Colleen is not CQ. CQ is CQ, Colleen is Colleen. And she happens to be the director who's running CQ.
Yes. Okay. So in the beginning when I started off, it's also about that as much as you may want to coach, you have to do a lot of things before you can coach.
Yes.
So that's where your admin comes in. Can you sell? So many coaches say, oh no, but they're not salespeople. But unless you sell coaching, you can't coach. And yes, obviously sales has got a very different side now in that you need to uncover needs. But if you don't uncover needs and you don't have conversations and you don't network,
yes,
you're not going to uncover needs and match the benefits of what you're offering to those needs.
So will you say that so that means you look into the market and you identify your slot where you can fit in and then you approach it?
So often what happens is that a lot of coaching training says that you need to find your niche. I feel often that you don't know what your niche is until you try it.
Yes.
And so as a result, I have worked with all different kinds of people. I also went to entrepreneurs because I was then an entrepreneur. I knew how lonely it was. That's why I started Twitter, for instance, because I could then chat to people on Twitter and found families and communities on Twitter who are still there.
Yes.
8 years later. And so it's about learning how to network, learning how to do different things and trying different, so I've worked with youth. I still work with youth. I've worked with ex-convicts. I've gone into working with pastors' wives. So all different aspects for me to realize, like, for instance, I enjoy working with men. I like male energy. I like corporate energy.
Yes.
I like being able to work with people for them to see a different way of working, not 101 that we learned in the olden days of how to transition, how to have EQ. And to realize that just because you care doesn't mean you're not suddenly going to get results or you are weak as a leader.
And then tell me, your husband is still in the corporate, ne?
My husband is an accountant.
Oh, she's also self-employed. He's also self-employed.
No, he works for a very big logistics company.
Oh, I see. Okay. So basically it's the house of professionals.
Yes, we are a house of professionals.
Everybody is busy.
Everybody is very busy. You must see us in lockdown. We've got 3 different offices and 3 different ends of our home.
Wow.
So that we don't bug each other and kill each other before lockdown ends.
Yeah, that's the challenge, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. And will you say that this coaching now is sort of like that is the destiny, that's where you were meant to be, when you look at it, where it gives you the fulfillment that you thought medicine was going to give you?
Oh, yes. It has always been, from the idea of wanting to be a doctor. And for me, it's very important, the healing and the teaching.
Yes.
And so I heal and I teach. I just do it as a coach. And certainly when I worked in medical devices as a divisional manager or as a clinical specialist or whatever else I was in along the way, I also, was healing and teaching. I took young people and taught them how to be salespeople together with my whole management team that I worked with. So at no point in any of my journey do I regret any of it.
Yeah. And
none of it was wrong.
Come again?
I said none of it was wrong.
Yeah. And so what is Colleen CQ's value proposition? Why will clients come to you and not go to Sam Zimmer? Or let's use somebody else. Let's use somebody else because you and I, we are associates anyway. So it wouldn't matter if they come to me, they'll go to you. We are working as associates. That was a bad example. Why will they not go to next door?
Okay, so for me, it's something about you would click with me.
Yes.
I'm very driven by the result and the growth in the journey. I don't particularly care how we get there, though.
Yeah.
So I'm not we have to start on page 1 kind of person. If we want to start on page 54, that's where we'll start. That's where we'll start. I think also, like, when I've asked people why did they choose me, sometimes it's been fascinating. The one guy said to me, because I knew you wouldn't let me get away with anything. So sometimes where people see that I'm strict.
Yes.
Other times a lady said to me, I didn't choose you.
Yes.
And I said, she said, no, she'd chosen another coach, but something went wrong with the emails and all that. And I said, okay, well, let's see why the universe did actually give me to you. And within 30 minutes, she said, I know now. Okay. So to me, it's about getting where we need to go. In the beginning, when I first started coaching, it was about the end result. And now I know that it's about the growth to get to the end result.
Yes. We all start there, aren't we? Don't we? We always very nervous and worried about not achieving what is perceived to be the outcome. But in reality, coaching is not like that. You don't measure the impact of coaching on the basis of that. It's about growing together and making impact. But you could be also finding clients, because client is not only the person you coach, it's also the person that pays money. And if the person you coach understands that it's a journey, it's a partnership, we're going to grow together. Meanwhile, the sponsor wants to see tangible, measurable outcomes, which sometimes is very difficult. Then you could have a serious situation.
But that is about contracting up front.
Yes.
It's also about saying, when you work with Colleen, this is what you get.
Yes.
And if you don't want that, please don't work with Colleen.
Yeah, absolutely. And so have you adjusted very well to this virtual coaching as a result of lockdown, and how has the experience been? So
for me, I've always worked into Africa for one of the companies that I work for, and that's always been online. And I would normally have done Saturday classes also like online. So that was face to face, and now that's changed to online. And so for me, it was really just expanding. And what was also fun is, when you'd meet a new client and you say, let's do this online, they go, oh, no. And now they say, I guess we'll have to meet online. And you say, yes, we will have to.
So in a way, COVID-19 has really accelerated the adoption of technology platforms for interaction.
And I think for me, it's also realized that you can now work on an African platform, on an international platform, and it doesn't matter where your client is.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's the world over, everybody. I mean, you see how the providers of these platforms, how much expansion they are experiencing now. I mean, they are just growing phenomenally in terms of the uptake of technology. And the fourth industrial revolution technologies are now well embraced. People are even accepting that very soon their cars will communicate with their fridges. And say, why are you driving home? You need to go via the shop to buy milk because that one in the fridge is rotten. Yeah.
It's been fascinating also to see how people have traveled in lockdown, because on Zoom you can go anywhere. So, like in one day you could have done Kenya and Dubai and India, So that's been fascinating for me. I mean, it's fascinating to see how my daughter works with America, for instance. And it's opened up a whole new set of ways of working, unprecedented. But I think you've got to understand, like, where I've coached a whole team at different levels in an organization. Sometimes when people have now had to go home, they haven't had the infrastructure. They don't necessarily have their own laptop or data or live in a space where they've got, that's confidential. that they've got, that they can have a coaching session.
Colleen, you're giving so much of your time, free time, to the COMENSA, Coaches and Mentors South Africa. And how did that come about, and why is the study important for you?
Okay, so when I started off in coaching, some of my coach friends said, oh, there's this organization that wants to regulate us. And I said, oh, what? No, and I'm the type of person that I'm going to be regulated by anyone. I want to know who you are and what you're going to regulate me about. And I'm not going to find out about that by sitting on the outskirts. I want to be involved to know who, what, and when and how. And I think also coming from healthcare, the whole regulating is not strange anyway. So I went into the organization to discover, oh, what's this about? And then realized, oh, they're not regulating us, as upholding professionalism in an industry that is self-regulating. And I am also a jump in, I was raised by the parents. You don't criticize the committee, you jump into the committee, you work. You don't go, well, it would be nice if we had, no, hop in and do it.
Yeah.
And so before I knew it, I was in the committee. I was worked from a Gauteng point of view, and then was eventually the Gauteng chair for 3 years. And yes, I'm now the national vice president. So it's very interesting to see where we're going with that.
Have you ultimately been confirmed and elected as a national vice president?
Yes. On the 20th of May, I became the official national vice president, Sam.
I haven't seen the communication. How did I miss that?
Oh, I don't know.
I know you were standing in as
yes,
as a candidate, but I didn't hear the announcement. Is it because you don't really? How do I put it? It's not an issue for you.
Oh, it's still serving. I just changed the title. It's still me. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I was actually nervous thinking that I'm ahead of times and then it might appear like I'm positioning you.
No. So, yes, I am. The National Vice President works very much with our portfolios. So that's the membership committee, marketing, also research and our supervision. And it's also about taking down silos, making sure we work together, that we all sing from the same hymn sheet. We've got an amazing marketing lady now who's volunteering her time. And yes, we watch the space. We're going places.
For those who don't know, how transformed is COMENSA in terms of South African dynamics?
Okay, so that is also where you look at an organization and you say, what is transformed? Sometimes people look at a picture and say, oh, they're not transformed. So when you look at race, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, yes, we are transformed in that we have different people, different ways of looking at things. We've got age too, yes. Yeah. So I don't believe that you can look at an organization and think because we have a black man as president that we are therefore transformed.
So
but
what
we have it in our hearts.
Yes, and I'm glad you're clarifying that, because the narrow view of transformation in South Africa is race and gender and maybe ethnicity. But I'm talking in terms of effecting the direction that this country is taking. From economy point of view, from society point of view, from education point of view, we are. COMENSA is also recognized as a profession, as a professional body by SAQA, right?
Yes. So SAQA recognizes us as a professional body, and they also recognize our designations. So in terms of being credentialed as a coach, they recognize those designations. So it is about, what difference are we making in the South African setting.
And what do you think sits squarely on COMENSA in the South African context in terms of where the country is heading to?
Okay, so certainly from economic space, from also because COVID has impacted everyone. As I speak today, we have got, every single person's got fine line cracks in them. And from a mental wellness point of view, we also need to play a role there. need to play a role in that. Certainly, I see coaching as being a solution in allowing people to find the solution that they need to do in their space.
And in terms of the provider side, what is the relationship that you would like to see between COMENSA and the providers of coaching education?
Okay, so those are our training providers. And at the recent AGM now, we said that we weren't going to recognize training providers. We're going to recognize the programs that they have. And so they are then going to be a bronze, silver, or gold, depending on what kind of programs they are. And it is about us taking a lot more firmer stance in terms of, just as much as anyone can be a coach. Oh, I'm a coach today. Anyone can say, oh, I train coaches.
So you won't be blinded by big institutions with many years of existence, and just because it's this particular institution, let's say a university or a business school, so that wouldn't be an issue. You will look at what their programs say, and then you recognize that.
Yes. And so with that, we have got a behavioral framework, and a behavioral framework, and also a code of ethics, and that your coach training has got to be within that behavioral framework, and it has to be within our code of ethics. It can't just be, yay, look at us, we've been around for 25 years or 99 years.
Yeah. Talk about the collaboration. I mean, there is a number of. I mean, I've noticed that globally, people are starting to disregard the borders, and there are associations that used to be very much confined within borders of particular countries, but because companies go across borders, you find that the collaboration is almost like dictated to. It's not a choice. I mean, in South Africa, maybe the highly visible one will be ICF. The EMCC is not that much, but there are individuals that will be coming in as expatriates from other countries, and they will probably work with their national bodies. I guess maybe it's not yet that much prevalent, but I see that happening. What do you think?
So for us, from a COMENSA point of view, we are South African, and we are going to stay South African in our culture and what makes us tick, and what we put out there. But we are wanting to have a global flavor, to have a global
mindset.
Yes, to be, hey, let's go check them out, And I think we will certainly be getting there. You can see we do have global people. We have people obviously who've left South Africa and are sitting all over the world, but they're more because of it being online now. You can visit anything, any event,
anywhere in the world. And you did say up front that competition is healthy, so
competition is healthy. And what I've also said, like when I worked in medical, it was very much that we collaborated with our competitors to make sure that the standard in the industry was high, and we competed for customers. And ultimately, I don't see COMENSA as being any different in that we collaborate with different coaching bodies to make sure that the standard is high. But we obviously compete for members, but many members belong to more than one.
Yeah, well, it's a strategy of many members to belong to many organizations.
Yeah.
That is just purely out of business needs.
Yes. And what's important for us, though, is you do belong to one. Please don't be the little ostrich sitting around going, oh, no one's ever asked me for, we don't get that as much as we used to, but certainly in the beginning, people said, oh, no one's ever asked me if I belong to a professional body. No one's ever asked me for a certificate.
You must belong to at least one. Because otherwise, issues of ethics and all those things. Yeah. And I know that volunteer organizations always have a difficulty of capacity. And the members are very demanding. They always demand the impossible.
I have learned lots from our members. Yes, you will always get the person who will write the email at 2 a.m. But it's also grown me, it's stretched me. I've also realized that it is about serving. This is about serving. And it's also about managing expectations, and it's communication.
Yeah. So you're not just a member who's a member. You are a member that actually is active, that is, you're on the head of the organization. And I always, I know I've been in that situation before. And it's a big ask, the challenge in terms of balancing the time for your business and the time for COMENSA. At the moment, there are mutual benefits in your view.
Yes, definitely mutual benefits, because I'm actually I'm giving time to make sure that the industry I work in, STU Consulting, is a professional industry. And sometimes there are more hours than you would imagine are in a day, but it is about knowing that what I'm giving my time to and what I'm building and the people I'm working with, it's worthwhile. It's a calling. It's a passion. We go grow and get results.
What is the situation in the market? Do we have sufficient coaches for the demand, or do we have enough demand for the coaches that we have?
I think at the moment you find that the demand is going to increase.
Yes.
And I think that we will. Well, what is happening, I've seen a lot from an entrepreneur point of view, that people who were doing different things in lockdown 5, for instance, or 4, have had to reinvent themselves. And often they've looked around and said, oh, what can I do? I know I was approached by a magazine to say, oh, could you please contribute to an article about how do you become a coach? And so, yes, it was important that we did contribute to how do you become a coach, a real coach.
I like that underline, the real coach.
A real coach, as opposed to, oh, today I'm a coach.
I sometimes try to restrict myself to be too critical, because everybody wants to make a living for themselves and they want to do something.
Yes.
But there are a lot of organizations out there that offer few days courses and few weeks courses, and I've even seen some online courses, but they very fall short in terms of demanding that these people do some real coaching as part of their learning, and the basis of that, then people get qualified. I'm just scared that too much damage get done, and every one of us in the industry suffer. When people are really coaching, but they really don't, you know very well that they don't know coaching. Either because the content they receive was pumped into them within a very short period of time and they couldn't cover enough, or they are not required to really truly coach under supervision and mentoring, so that we can be written off. Because we all started there before you even can become credentialed. So, but at the same time, I'm sensitive to want to knock down people's initiative to make a living. And that, what is your view on that?
So for me, I think there's difference. We've got lots of students who belong to us, and they're amazing. And it's not so much about being inexperienced because you are a student. It's about the people who haven't done the path, either from recognition of prior learning or from officially studying. And a big thing also is a lot of people come with a certificate from a proper place, okay? Yes. And they are not confident in that now they may know how to coach, and they know how to coach on paper. Yes. They don't know how to run a business, and they don't know how to actually coach really.
Yes.
And that's why COMENSA also has that 90% of your coaching hours have got to be paid.
Yes. So but in terms of the in terms of continuous professional development, do you agree with me that there's a huge need there?
Yes.
It's like you get a driver's license and then you drive under, I don't know what you call it.
Yes, well, you get to be a learner and then you get to be a driver. And I said, just because you get your driver's license doesn't mean that you can rush out there during the rain doing 160 k's an hour. Yeah.
Because I want us to be understood, and I want us to understand each other as fellow coaches, that we are at different levels, but there is a standard that we aspire to achieve. But if you haven't arrived there, be aware and recognize the fact that you still have to do work.
Yes. So I think it is about realizing and recognizing and using your gut as to, I'm out of my depth here.
Yes.
Where are you out of your depth because you're lacking confidence compared to where am I out of my depth because I don't know what I'm doing?
Yes.
Because
the demand, the need is so big, there can never be enough coaches, according to me.
Yes.
So
I think also, though, that we can't be, as proper professional coaches, the real ones, I don't think we can be intimidated by the people who are not real. Okay, I'm not saying not qualified or not experienced. I'm talking about the fly-by-night crowd.
Yes.
Because we need to be louder. We need to be more seen, more visible, more professional, more out there. And we need brand advocates who are going to speak out for coaching to say, okay, guys, this is what real is.
Yes.
And too many people also look to everyone else to say, well, what are you doing about it? And it starts with, as part of your proposal, do you say that you belong to COMENSA and that you're professional and you're credentialed and you whatever, or do you expect everyone else to be singing it for you?
Absolutely. There's a lot to be spoken about, and I think one area that you and I and a couple of us we have spoken about, which I really more and more realizing that is very important, is supervision.
Yes.
We need to be taken care of as coaches as well.
So supervision is really three parts, and sometimes people react to supervision as being the old-fashioned supervisor where someone's looking after you or looking over you. And supervision is certainly not that. It's really threefold in that it's looking at you as a person, as you as a coach, and coaching as a profession.
Yes.
And making sure that you feel supported and loved and cared for in all those three different areas of your business. It's also not like when you go to supervision, it's not like, hey, I need to know how much to charge.
Yes.
It's about, let's unpack your feelings about why you are not charging or charging whatever for coaching. Or let's look at your feelings, how you feel. So it's really the inner work of you being able to see, okay, now stop, pause, let's see what's going on. And from there, the supervisor is not going to say, the answer is step one, do this, do that, do the next thing. But it's very important as a professional coach that you are supported. So counseling, for instance, you would have a debrief, or you would go to also just supervision by a different name. And so you get group supervision and you also get individual supervision.
I really see a lot of great value in coaches working together as associates. There's absolute great value there because our strength combined is unbelievable. And I do get feedback from the clients that receive coaches that work as associates, maybe under CQ or under COMENSA. The clients really appreciate the value that brings. The diversity of coaches actually shows itself among the team members that are being coached by those diverse coaches. And I think that is where then none of us can be superfluous. We cannot be more than enough. But obviously the business, the enterprise of coaching also then demands that you have to have a system and a process that manages that, because coaches need to be looked after. They can't be running around doing scheduling and other things that has nothing to do with coaching.
And that is also where sometimes when you are now working with lots of coaches, you sometimes come out of your own ability to coach, where now suddenly you are doing paperwork.
Yes.
So it's a bit like in the medical industry where you become the matron. You suddenly don't see patients anymore. You're now managing people and you're managing paper.
That's why I don't get involved. That's why Portia does that for me, because I want to continue coaching so that I can still be in touch.
Yes.
And I think that model's worked very well for us. And Portia also enjoys it. He says, I'm not a coach. I'm managing you as a coach. The clients tell me whether they are happy with you or not, but I wouldn't be able to tell you why they are happy or why they are not happy.
Yes.
Yeah. So
it's very important that you realize what your strengths are and to work in strengths, because when you do that, things flow. And, the things that aren't your values in your life, you need to make sure that you know what you value and what you don't value. And the things you don't value, you need to almost outsource to somebody who has got them at the top of their value list, because then we'll all work and flow.
Absolutely. Colleen, part of this conversation, I mean, it's you and I conversing, but we know very well at the back of our mind, we are in conversations with our listeners out there. And we believe very strongly that they are picking up some insights from our conversation. And thanks for bringing COMENSA part of your work into this discussion, because that on its own can be another interview, but I think we used the opportunity to touch on that. And once again, congratulations on your appointment as a Vice President of COMENSA, Coaches and Mentors South Africa. That's a huge achievement.
Thank you very much, Sam.
Your volunteering is paying back, and I can now see that what medical profession was going to give you, COMENSA and CQ is giving you.
Yes. It's very much about in your life you become.
Yeah.
You don't suddenly wake up one day and say, oh, now I'm a whatever. You become one.
Yeah. And then I think, as I said at the beginning, that the purpose of COMENSA Radio Africa is to affirm professional people and entrepreneurs. And a little gift that I always give people, say, out of this conversation with you, I'm picking a couple of things that might be blind spots for you and people may not give it to you, and let me affirm you to say that the country is very honored and blessed to have somebody like you who's so selfless with your time. And that's why I was asking if your husband was still working, and I'm glad to hear that he's also still running around, so there's no conflict in the house. We can still share you.
Okay, so what happens is from a partnership from my marriage works in that we're separate people, and that we understand we've got different passions, different things that are important, and we also I've always been married to a man who respects the fact that I have a career, and that often has taken me away from home. But you know what I've also said as well is that just because I haven't physically been here, like I might have been sitting in Nigeria, for instance, but it certainly has not. I'm still there. I'm still part of a group from our team.
Yeah, and certainly there is still a lot of work to be done for the industry itself, but also for your own company, and of course us at COMENSA, we are grateful to have you as one of our associates, and we wish you all the best. And then of course I pick up that your energy level is very high, which is always a healthy thing. You are not being forced to do the things you do. You enjoy what you are doing. You're working very hard. You are determined, and I'm sure the coaching fraternity is going to benefit a lot from your role as a VP.
Thank you very much, Sam. Yes.
Good.
If there's no energy in your life, you've got to question why you're doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can we check out, as coaches, we always check out. What do you want to check out with?
Just to say that I've really enjoyed our conversation. I'm sure that your audience is going to feel like they were just listening in to us chatting.
Yeah.
Because it certainly hasn't felt like an interview. It's just felt like a chat with a friend.
That's the whole idea. Because when we do that, we become really original and we become authentic.
Yes.
And I think that really is up to the listeners to pick up whatever they pick up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also to say, if anybody would like to ask me anything or chat to me, when you spell my name right, you can find me very easily.
Yes, absolutely. And that's also one of the objectives of the platform, is that we connect supply to demand. And how do people get a hold of you?
Okay, so if you Google me, or like on my LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, remember Colleen has got 2 L's and 2 E's. And Qvist is Qvist. You can definitely find me.
Yeah.
And then you can also email me at Colleen, 2 L's and 2 E's, at cqconsulting.co.za.
Lovely. And I don't know whether you want them to call you or with the email address.
They can call me. Please, if you do call me and send me a WhatsApp, please tell me who you are. Often people send me messages and just go, and I'm thinking, but who are you?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So my number is +27.
Yes.
82 550 3568.
And you say the WhatsApp will be the best.
Yeah, WhatsApp me. Tell me who you are. Tell me where you heard me, and then we can take it from there.
And there might also be people who are interested on either of the two organizations, either CQ or COMENSA.
Yes.
How do they get hold of COMENSA?
Okay, so my COMENSA email address is vp at comensa.org.za. And COMENSA is spelled COMENSA.
Yeah, they're always confused with COMENSA.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's not Sam's COMENSA.
It's the COMENSA, Coaches and Mentors of South Africa.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there is a website as well, I guess it's comensa.org.za.
That's correct.
Yeah, and then all of us as coaches, we would like to contribute to building a very robust, strong industry of coaches in South Africa, and that way we will all benefit.
Yeah. And just on that point, please understand that, together we can do so much more.
Absolutely.
And that, if we're using the African proverb is that when we have got far to go, we need to go together.
Absolutely. Colleen, it has been a pleasure. I told you that I'm going to dig deeper, and I did so. And I'm glad I've done so, because now I got to understand your background, your thinking, and the journey that you have followed. And for me, it sounds like you have just begun now. We have just started. It doesn't look like you have been on this journey for a very long time, but that is what happens when people do love what they are doing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And it doesn't feel like work then.
Lovely. Dear listeners, ladies and gentlemen, that was Colleen, and you have heard for yourself. She is not only running her own company, but she has been appointed the Vice President of Coaches and Mentors of South Africa, and therefore she is your servant. And I hope you will keep that in mind. Once again, I'm Sam Zima, the CEO and Business Executive Coach at COMENSA GOC International. Our website is www.comesa-goc.com, and we encourage you to join our NPO, and that's from where we mobilize each other to really contribute to the work that we do through the radio and many other areas. You can join at www.comesaclub.africa, or you can drop us email at callcenter@comesa-goc.com. We thank you for tuning in. We're looking forward to welcoming you at our next broadcast. Goodbye, be safe, and take care.